Dr. Alex Harris sat hunched over his desk, the ancient map spread out before him. The symbols on the map were unlike anything he had seen in his years of archaeological study. The site marked on it was unfamiliar, hidden deep in the plains of southeastern Turkey. Could this really be the location of Gobekli Tepe? He whispered to himself, tracing the lines with his fingers. The idea that this could be the lost site of an ancient civilization that had predicated modern architecture filled him with both excitement and doubt. The map's detailed carvings aligned perfectly with a series of archaeological findings from nearby regions, and yet it was off the records, unseen for centuries. The excitement was palpable as Dr. Harris pored over every detail, his mind racing with the implications. He had always believed there was something hidden within ancient civilizations, some truth locked away, buried under time and dust. As he gathered his things to head to Turkey, Dr. Harris couldn't help but think, what could this mysterious place hold? Dr. Harris was not alone in his pursuit of the secrets buried at Gobekli Tepe. Sophie Lang, an expert cryptographer, had been working on deciphering the ancient symbols found in various parts of the world for years. When he reached out to her for help, she was immediately intrigued. "You're telling me that this site is older than the Great Pyramids?" Sophie asked, her voice filled with disbelief. Dr. Harris nodded, feeling both the weight and the thrill of the discovery. "Yes, and there's more. I think the carvings are telling us something important, something we've missed for centuries." Sophie paused, her expression thoughtful. "I'll help you, but you have to understand that unlocking this mystery may uncover things that some aren't ready to hear." Dr. Harris didn't hesitate. "I'm ready for the truth." Dr. Alex Harris and Sophie Lang arrived in Turkey, the place where the ancient site of Gobekli Tepe lay hidden beneath the earth for thousands of years. As they drove toward the site, Sophie couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into a past that had been carefully kept from the world. The landscape was stark and barren, stretching endlessly in all directions. "It's hard to believe something so ancient and significant is buried out here," Sophie said, her voice filled with awe. Dr. Harris nodded, his mind already racing with the potential of what they could uncover. The car slowed as they reached the edge of the site, the stone pillars of Gobekli Tepe rising like ancient sentinels against the sky. "This place," Dr. Harris said, pausing as he stared at the megalithic structures, "could change everything we know about human history." The wind swept across the plains, rustling the dry grass. It felt as though time itself had stood still here, preserving the secrets that were waiting to be revealed. As they walked closer to the site, Sophie could feel the weight of history pressing in, but Dr. Harris was already lost in his excitement. He had waited for this moment for so long, and now it was finally happening. The initial exploration of Gobekli Tepe was exhilarating, but also filled with uncertainty. Dr. Harris and Sophie began by carefully documenting the site, noting the carvings on the stone pillars that had fascinated archaeologists for years. They discovered symbols and geometric shapes that didn't fit any known ancient languages. "These don't match anything we've seen before," Sophie said, her brow furrowed as she examined the symbols. "This could be a completely lost form of communication." Dr. Harris was absorbed in the significance of the discovery. "If we can crack the code, it could change everything we know about ancient civilizations." However, not everyone was so enthusiastic. As the day went on, local authorities arrived, their presence looming like a dark cloud over the site. The site's significance had been debated for years, and now that Dr. Harris and Sophie were uncovering deeper secrets, the authorities grew wary. "You're treading on dangerous ground," one of the officials warned, his eyes hard and unblinking. Dr. Harris didn't fly. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Dr. Harris couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The authorities had been watching them closely, but he was more concerned about something else. Something deeper. That night, as Sophie slept, Dr. Harris stayed awake, going over the photographs and notes from their exploration. He'd noticed a strange pattern in the carvings, a celestial alignment that seemed to point to a specific date. It was as though the builders of Gobekli Tepe had encoded something important in the stones. Could this be a warning? He wondered aloud, his mind racing. He knew that they were onto something big, but there was also a deep, growing sense of unease. Sophie woke up to find him still staring at the documents, his eyes wide with realization. "Alex, what is it?" she asked. Dr. Harris looked up, his expression serious. "We're not just looking at an ancient site. This might be a message, a prophecy." Sophie's eyes widened in disbelief. "A prophecy," she echoed. "But who could have left it for us?" Dr. Harris stared at the carvings, a chilling thought crossing his mind. What if the answers they sought weren't just buried in the past, but meant to influence the future? Dr. Harris and Sophie continue their exploration of Gobekli Tepe, discovering strange celestial carvings. Sophie points out symbols matching ancient star maps. "These align with astronomical events," she says. Dr. Harris realizes the ancient builders had advanced knowledge of the stars. The discovery excites him, but Sophie is wary. "This knowledge shouldn't exist 12,000 years ago," she warns. They realize they're not just studying history, they're uncovering something much bigger. But their breakthrough comes at a cost. The local authorities arrive, watching them closely. The following day, Dr. Harris and Sophie meet Professor Richard McCoy, who questions their findings. He dismisses the idea that the symbols represent star maps, insisting they need concrete evidence. But as Sophie shows him their work, McCoy begins to reconsider. "This is more than a coincidence," he admits reluctantly. However, he warns them to be cautious. The group feels the growing pressure. They're uncovering a secret that someone wants to keep buried. Sophie discovers a new detail in the carvings. They seem to represent phases of the moon. "This isn't just about the past. These people were tracking celestial cycles," she says. Dr. Harris agrees, excited by the implications. But Sophie points out discrepancies in the star maps. "This doesn't match known maps. There's something hidden here," she says. Dr. Harris, feeling both thrilled and uneasy, realizes they may have unearthed something that should have been found. The group's discoveries deepen the mystery, and as they decode more symbols, Sophie begins to feel uneasy. "This doesn't feel right. These carvings aren't just records. They feel like a warning," she says. Dr. Harris insists they continue, driven by the need to uncover the truth. But as the celestial event depicted in the carvings draws closer, the group grows more anxious. Dr. Harris feels a sense of urgency. "We can't stop now, we're too close." Sophie receives a cryptic message. "Stop digging. You're not the only ones interested in Gobekli Tepe." Dr. Harris' face hardens. "Someone is watching us." Sophie feels the weight of the warning. Who's behind this?" she wonders aloud. But Dr. Harris is resolute. "We've come this far. We can't stop now." The stakes are higher than ever, and their pursuit of the truth has drawn the attention of dangerous forces. Dr. Harris and Sophie uncover a new stone tablet beneath the ruins of Gobekli Tepe. The tablet is intricately carved with celestial alignments and humanoid figures. Sophie realizes the symbols match ancient star maps, and Dr. Harris concludes this ancient civilization had knowledge far beyond their time. "This isn't just history, it's a message," he says, but Sophie wonders if they're dealing with something far more dangerous than they imagine. Dr. Harris and Sophie show their findings to Dr. Eve Donovan, an expert in ancient civilizations. Initially skeptical, Dr. Donovan is soon convinced. "This knowledge shouldn't exist. If this is true, we're dealing with something that could rewrite history," she admits. Dr. Harris is determined to press forward, while Sophie fears the consequences of what they've uncovered. Sophie points out that the carvings seem to represent not just celestial events, but an impending disaster. "This could be a warning about the end of the world," she says, her voice filled with dread. Dr. Harris realizes they may have stumbled upon an ancient prophecy. The group is now faced with a choice: dig deeper into the mystery or leave it alone before it's too late. Sophie warns Dr. Harris that continuing could unleash something catastrophic. "What if we're not meant to know this?" she asks. But Dr. Harris, driven by the need for the truth, refuses to stop. "We have to finish this. We're too close." Their determination is met with uncertainty as the stakes of their discovery become clearer. The ancient civilization may have hidden the truth for a reason. Sophie receives a cryptic message: "Stop digging. You're not the only ones interested in Gobekli Tepe." The warning is clear. someone is watching them. Dr. Harris, undeterred, insists they continue. We're too far in to turn back now. The mystery surrounding the site grows deeper, and now, with new dangers emerging, they must decide how far they are willing to go to uncover the truth. The warning message had only fueled Dr. Harris' resolve. He knew they were on the brink of uncovering something monumental, and no one, not even those who warned them, would stop him now. The group continued their work under increasing pressure, as their discoveries grew more and more controversial. As Dr. Harris examined the latest carving, he felt the weight of the situation settle on him. If this is true, he said almost to himself, then we've unlocked a knowledge that could change everything. Sophie, still shaken by the anonymous message, wasn't so sure. Alex, we're digging into something much bigger than we can handle. If this knowledge is dangerous, maybe we shouldn't be the ones to bring it to light. But Dr. Harris' determination was unwavering. It's too late to turn back. We're closer than we've ever been. Their investigation had become a race against time, not only to uncover the truth but to stay ahead of the dangerous forces that wanted to keep it hidden. And now, with the enigmatic figure, known as the Keeper of Secrets, who had been watching them from the shadows, their mission was under threat from all sides. As the group continued to investigate, the Keeper of Secrets, an elusive and authoritative figure, arrived unexpectedly. He was a well-known academic who had studied ancient civilizations, but had always kept his distance from the discoveries at Gobekli Tepe. Dr. Harris had heard of him before, but the man's presence now felt like a threat. Dr. Harris, the keeper said, his voice calm but stern, you're treading on dangerous ground. The knowledge you seek here is not meant for modern minds. Dr. Harris straightened his back. We're just trying to understand the truth of this place, nothing more. The keeper's eyes darkened. You don't know what you're unleashing. Some knowledge is meant to remain hidden. You must stop before it's too late. Sophie exchanged a glance with Dr. Harris. But why? What are you hiding? The keeper didn't answer directly. Some truths are better left buried, he said cryptically. The air around them grew heavier, and Dr. Harris felt a shiver run down his spine. Was the keeper trying to protect them, or was he simply guarding his own secrets? That night, Dr. Harris couldn't sleep. The keeper's warning echoed in his mind. Some truths are better left buried. But Dr. Harris couldn't ignore the sense of destiny that had driven him to this point. Sophie found him in the study, surrounded by research, photographs, and artifacts. Alex, I think we need to reconsider, Sophie said quietly. The keeper knows something we don't. If we push forward, we could be making a terrible mistake. Dr. Harris looked up at her, his eyes tired but resolute. Sophie, we've come this far. I can't back down now. If we stop now, we might never know the full truth. Sophie hesitated, torn between her loyalty to him and the fear that they were on the edge of uncovering something too dangerous. I just don't want to see you lose everything, she said softly. Dr. Harris reached for the photographs of Gobekli Tepe that littered the table. It's too late for that, we have no choice but to keep going. They both knew that the stakes had never been higher, but neither of them could have predicted how much deeper the mystery would go, or the dangers that lay ahead. The next day, as Dr. Harris and Sophie returned to the site, they discovered a new layer of carvings that seemed to depict an ancient cosmic event. The carvings aligned with the previous ones they had uncovered, but this time the message was clearer. It showed a vast celestial collision, with celestial beings watching from the sidelines. Sophie stepped back, her breath catching in her throat. This looks like it could be a depiction of the end of the world. Dr. Harris looked at the carvings, his pulse quickening. The people who built this site were trying to warn us. The realization hit them both at the same time. The ancient civilization of Gobekli Tepe had known about a cosmic event, an event that was set to happen again. Dr. Harris knew that they were dangerously close to uncovering a prophecy that could change everything. But there was something else. They weren't the only ones looking for it. Whoever was watching them was getting closer. The day grew colder as Dr. Harris, Sophie, and Dr. Donovan gathered around the new findings, trying to make sense of what they had uncovered. But the tension was palpable. Someone, or something, was trying to stop them. As they examined the carvings, they found more details that hinted at an impending cosmic event, a collision of celestial bodies that could cause devastation on Earth. "This isn't just an astronomical event," Dr. Harris said, his voice grave. "This is something much more catastrophic." Sophie, feeling the weight of the discovery, added, "It's like they were trying to warn us." Just then, a loud noise echoed through the camp, the sound of something being knocked over. They rushed outside, but there was nothing. The unease among them grew. Were they being watched? The Keeper of Secrets had warned them to stop, and now it seemed like the forces working against them were growing more active. The mystery of Gobekli Tepe had just taken a dark turn, and Dr. Harris knew that the answers they were seeking were coming at a great cost. The discovery of the celestial event carved into the stones of Gobekli Tepe had set off a chain of events that could no longer be stopped. Dr. Harris, Sophie, and Dr. Donovan had uncovered a prediction, a warning of an impending cosmic disaster. But their breakthrough had not gone unnoticed. The Keeper of Secrets reappeared, his presence even more menacing this time. "I warned you to stop," he said, his voice steady but tinged with a threat. "You've gone too far. You don't understand the consequences of what you're meddling with." Dr. Harris stood his ground, his eyes locked on the Keeper. "We're not afraid of the truth, no matter how dangerous it is. You've known about this all along, haven't you?" The Keeper didn't answer. Instead, his expression hardened. "The truth isn't meant to be understood by everyone. Some knowledge should remain hidden, buried for a reason." Sophie stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "You're trying to protect a secret, not humanity. If this prophecy is true, we have to warn the world." The Keeper's eyes darkened. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. The truth, once revealed, will destroy you." The tension in the air was palpable as the two sides stood off. The Keeper's warning hung heavy, but Dr. Harris was resolute. "We have to finish this," he said quietly. Sophie, though scared, nodded. "If we don't, we might never get the answers we've been searching for." The Keeper's eyes narrowed. "I've seen what happens when people try to uncover what's buried here," he said, his voice cold. "You won't survive the consequences." The ground beneath them seemed to tremble slightly, as the ancient ruins seemed to pulse with an eerie energy. The air grew thick with the sense that they were on the brink of something monumental, something both terrifying and thrilling. Dr. Harris stepped forward, his mind made up. "We're not going to let you stop us." The Keeper's expression shifted from calm to fury. "Then you leave me no choice." In that moment it became clear. They were not just dealing with an ancient mystery anymore. They were up against a force that would do anything to protect it. With a sudden movement, the Keeper of Secrets lunged toward Dr. Harris, knocking the ancient tablet from his hands. Sophie screamed, but the Keeper's hand shot out, grabbing her by the wrist. "Stop!" Dr. Harris shouted, rushing forward to help. The Keeper's eyes burned with rage. "You've awoken something you cannot control." The ground beneath them seemed to rumble, and a deep hum filled the air. Dr. Harris' heart raced as he tried to free Sophie from the Keeper's grip. In that moment, everything seemed to blur into chaos. The carvings on the stone pillars around them seemed to glow faintly, as though reacting to the violence unfolding. "Let her go," Dr. Harris shouted, struggling with the Keeper. Suddenly, a blast of wind swept through the site, sending dust and debris flying. The ground shook more violently, as if the earth itself was reacting to the confrontation. Dr. Harris managed to wrench Sophie free, and together they stumbled back, narrowly avoiding a stone pillar that seemed to shift under the four. The group managed to retreat back to their camp, but the damage had been done. Keeper had warned them, but now they were trapped, stuck in the middle of an ancient mystery that was far bigger than they had imagined. "What did he mean by that?" Sophie asked, her voice trembling. Dr. Harris stared at the ruins in the distance. "I don't know, but I think we've awakened something ancient, something powerful." Dr. Donovan stood beside them, her face pale. "If this really is a cosmic event, like the carvings suggest, we don't have much time left." Dr. Harris took a deep breath. "We need to figure this out now, We're not going to let him stop us. As night fell, the sense of urgency intensified. The celestial alignment that had been encoded in the ancient stones was approaching. The team had only a limited window to decipher the final piece of the puzzle. As they prepared for what lay ahead, a heavy silence fell over them. The stakes had never been higher, and the race against time was far from over. As Dr. Harris, Sophie, and Dr. Donovan prepared for their final push to uncover the secrets of Gobekli Tepe, the air around them grew charged. The ancient prophecy, now more than just an academic curiosity, had become a race against fate. "We need to decode the final symbol," Dr. Harris said, his voice firm. "It's the key to everything." Sophie and Dr. Donovan worked alongside him, deciphering the intricate symbols that had stumped them for days. As the clock ticked down to the predicted celestial event, they realized the last piece of the puzzle was the most dangerous. It wasn't just an astronomical alignment. It was a countdown to something that could reshape the world. They had to act fast. The keeper's warning echoed in Dr. Harris' mind, but he could no longer back down. "We either figure this out, or everything we know will change," he said, his voice filled with a sense of finality. As the countdown reached its final moments, Dr. Harris felt the weight of their discoveries bearing down on him. The future of humanity depended on what they uncovered in the coming hours. The group had finally decoded the last of the celestial symbols, and with the information now in hand, the pressure was unbearable. The countdown was reaching its final moments, and the enormity of what they had uncovered was beginning to sink in. Dr. Harris sat by the fire that night, staring at the stars above. Sophie joined him, her face weary from days of intense research. "Alex," she began softly, "what if we're wrong? What if this cosmic event we're talking about is just an ancient belief?" Dr. Harris looked at her, his eyes reflecting a mixture of exhaustion and determination. "I can't ignore the evidence. This isn't just a myth, Sophie. The prophecy, it's real. We've seen the signs." Sophie nodded, but the fear in her eyes was unmistakable. "But what if it's too late to stop it?" she asked quietly. Dr. Harris stood up, his eyes fixed on the distant ruins. "Then we make sure we're the ones who control the outcome. No one else. We have to be ready for whatever comes next." As he spoke, he could feel, as the night passed, and the celestial event drew nearer, Dr. Harris, Sophie, and Dr. Donovan continued to piece together the final details of the prophecy. Dr. Donovan was the first to speak, her voice tinged with apprehension. "If we're right, and this celestial event is tied to a global catastrophe, we need to act immediately." Dr. Harris nodded, his face grim. "I know, but how do we stop it? We don't even know what the event will trigger." Sophie stepped forward, her face resolute. "Maybe the answer is hidden in the final symbols. We've been looking at this from the wrong angle." Dr. Harris' eyes widened with realization. "You're right. The symbols, they don't just predict the event, they hold the key to stopping it. We have to figure out what they mean." With the clock ticking, the group worked feverishly, trying to unlock the final riddle that would determine the fate of the world. As the night wore on, the tension mounted. They had deciphered the final symbol, but the meaning was more terrifying than they had expected. "It's not just an event," Sophie said, her voice trembling. "It's a signal that will trigger an ancient mechanism buried beneath the earth." Dr. Harris' heart raced as he read the translation. "This mechanism, it's designed to activate at the precise moment of the celestial event. But it's not just a warning, it's a weapon." Dr. Donovan looked up at them, her face pale. "A weapon? To do what?" Dr. Harris' voice was strained as he realized the full scope of the prophecy. "It's meant to reset civilization. If we don't stop it, it could destroy everything we've built." Sophie swallowed hard. "But how do we stop something like that?" Dr. Harris clenched his fists. "We find the mechanism, we disarm it, and we stop the event before it's too late." With only hours remaining before the celestial event, Dr. Harris, Sophie, and Dr. Donovan set out to find the ancient mechanism. The journey through the ruins was treacherous, the air thick with the weight of their discoveries. As they reached the heart of the site, Dr. Harris' eyes fell upon a hidden doorway, half buried beneath the earth. "This is it," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "This is where it begins." The door opened with a creak, revealing a vast underground chamber. The walls were covered in carvings similar to those they had seen above ground, but this time, the symbols seemed to pulse with energy. As they ventured deeper into the chamber, they found the mechanism, a massive stone structure covered in intricate carvings. "This is it," Dr. Harris said again, his voice filled with awe. "The key to everything." But as they moved closer, a deep rumble shook the ground. The mechanism was waking up. Inside the chamber, Dr. Harris, Sophie, and Dr. Donovan stood before the massive stone mechanism. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, part machine, part structure, its purpose unclear. The air was thick with an ancient energy that seemed to vibrate through the stone walls. "We need to stop this," Sophie said urgently, her voice tight with fear. "But how?" Dr. Harris knelt before the mechanism, his mind racing. The symbols on the stone were a code that they had already deciphered. "We have to reverse the alignment. We have to stop the signal from being sent," he said, his hands shaking as he traced the symbols. But just as they thought they had found the solution, a sudden noise echoed through the chamber. It was the Keeper of Secrets. He had followed them, and now he was determined to stop them from disarming the mechanism. "You can't stop it," he said, his voice low and ominous. "You have no idea what will happen if you do." The Keeper of Secrets stood in the doorway, watching them as they struggled to comprehend the full scale of what lay before them. "You don't understand," he repeated, his voice echoing in the chamber. "The mechanism is not just a tool, it's a safeguard. If you reverse the signal, you'll unleash something that has been contained for thousands of years." Dr. Harris' mind raced. "A safeguard against what?" he demanded. The Keeper's expression shifted, becoming more solemn. The ancient civilization that built Gobekli Tepe knew that knowledge of the cosmos would eventually destroy them. They sealed away this power, knowing that only those who truly understood could access it. Sophie's voice quivered. "And what happens if we release it?" The Keeper's eyes narrowed. "A cataclysm. A chain of events that will alter the very fabric of reality. The alignment isn't just a warning, it's a signal to activate the mechanism, to reset the balance." Dr. Harris stood up, his hands trembling. "What do you mean by reset? What kind of reset?" The Keeper stepped forward, his voice lowering to a near whisper. "A reset of civilization itself. The knowledge you're about to release will not just unlock ancient power, it will rewrite history." As the Keeper's words settled in, Dr. Harris felt a cold chill run down his spine. A reset of civilization? The implications of such a statement were unimaginable. "But if we do nothing, what happens?" Sophie asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The Keeper looked at her, his face filled with regret. "If you do nothing, the signal will continue to build. Eventually the event will unfold, and it will destroy all that humanity has worked for. This is the only way to prevent that." Dr. Harris' mind was in turmoil. Could the ancient builders of Gobekli Tepe truly have known what would happen millennia later? Was the prophecy real? "We have to make a choice," Dr. Harris said, his voice thick with emotion. "Do we stop this and risk the destruction of the world, or do we let it happen and hope for the best?" Sophie stepped forward, her voice resolute. "We have to trust the knowledge. We have to stop it." Dr. Donovan nodded in agreement. "If we do nothing, we're no better than the ones who tried to bury the truth." Dr. Harris closed his eyes, knowing that the decision they made here would determine the fate of the world. The moment of decision had arrived. Dr. Harris stepped forward, his hand hovering over the stone mechanism. The ancient carvings seemed to glow with an eerie energy, as if they were alive, waiting for him to make the final move. Sophie and Dr. Donovan stood by, their eyes fixed on him, knowing that whatever happened next would change everything. "Alex," Sophie said quietly, "we can't turn back now." Dr. Harris took a deep breath, steeling himself for what he was about to do. He knew that activating the mechanism would either prevent the cataclysm or bring about the very end they feared. "Here goes nothing," he muttered under his breath. With one swift motion, he pressed the stone. For a moment, nothing happened. The chamber fell silent. Then, a low hum began to reverberate through the walls, and the stone mechanism began to shift, slowly at first, then faster as the energy inside it activated. "It's working," Dr. Harris said, his voice a mix of relief and dread. But then, something unexpected happened. A burr. As the light from the mechanism intensified, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. Dr. Harris, Sophie, and Dr. Donovan stumbled backward, struggling to maintain their balance. The keeper stood frozen in place, his expression a mixture of fear and regret. "It's too late now," he said, his voice shaking. "You've activated the event, you've sealed your fate." The hum from the mechanism grew louder, and the light began to pulse rhythmically. Dr. Harris' heart raced as he watched the symbols on the walls shift and change, the energy flowing through the room like a living entity. "We need to get out of here," Sophie yelled. Dr. Harris didn't answer. His mind was racing, trying to make sense of the rapid developments. "There has to be something we can do to stop it," he muttered, his voice strained. But just as he spoke, the ground shook violently, and a deep rumble filled the chamber. The sky above seemed to darken, as if a storm was brewing. "It's starting," Dr. Donovan whispered, her voice filled with ill. In the final moments, Dr. Harris, Sophie, and Dr. Donovan stood together, watching as the celestial event unfolded before them. The sky above seemed to crack open, the stars aligning in ways that defied explanation. A sense of awe mixed with dread filled the air, and Dr. Harris realized that the prophecy was not just a warning, it was a catalyst for something greater. The mechanism had worked, and the ancient power had been unleashed. But what would it bring? Would humanity be doomed, or would this be the moment of a new beginning? Sophie clutched Dr. Harris' arm. "Is this the end?" she whispered. Dr. Harris didn't answer. He simply watched as the stars above seemed to converge, a brilliant light illuminating the sky. The earth trembled beneath them, and they knew that the world would never be the same again. The fate of humanity had been sealed in this moment.